Good morning. Welcome to A Higher View. I'm very excited. I have Ginny Weissman with me. Hi, Ginny.
Hi, Dr. Laura. This is such an honor. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you. This was kind of a sneak preview of what my show is going to be in October 15th, and it's going to be called The Higher View. And the purpose of this is to kind of get to know people within our community and outside of our community, but their background and what they're doing now and how they haven't let COVID slow them down. So, Jenny, you've been a member at our center for how long?
12 years this summer.
Oh, well, I want to thank you on something. This is interesting. We had a staff meeting with Dr. Joe was here for a little bit, and we had a meeting. And Jeff Harrison, who is our media guru, said that our largest demographic is from Chicago. Of viewers, not so much locally, but from Chicago. And we're going, how did that happen? And I went to bed and that night. I go, it's Jenny. Jenny, because Jenny is from Chicago. She has a lot of connections. Jenny posts, thank you, Jenny. She posts and shares our Sunday talks and things that we do at the center. So I'm sure that hello, Chicago.
Hello, Chicago. Great place to be from.
Yeah. So we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate everybody that's joining us. But
that's great.
So anyway,
I the Unity Church in Chicago, where Sherry Storch came from too, who's in our congregation, and I was in that church for over 20 years doing the pet ministry there too. So
were you doing the pet ministry then too?
I was not the director. I was a volunteer.
All right. So Jenny, so how long did you say you've been at our 8 years?
12 years in July.
12 years. And have you had you've had the pets?
Yeah, I would have been starting my 12th season of the pet ministry this September. My actual anniversary is in February, but I was starting my 12th season. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, maybe by February we'll be back and you
That'd be lovely.
Yeah. So anyway, so Jenny, tell everybody about your background. I mean, you're an Emmy-nominated producer and director, a television writer, journalist, author, and publisher, and who's been an activist for pro-social and positive entertainment during her diverse career. So what was that? And that was all in Chicago? Was that what you were?
It was, yes. That's why people out here think of me as the dog lady, because I haven't done a lot of that since I moved out here. Yeah, that was all in Chicago. I started my career at the Chicago Tribune. I was the editor of the TV Week magazine, which at the time was the largest publication next to TV Guide in the country.
Wow.
So I got to interview every celebrity they wanted to be. We had over 1 million circulation for that Sunday magazine. And I was such a, what should we say, a fan growing up, loved watching television, loved meeting all the people that I've been watching all my life. And it was a great way to start my career. And because I was writing about television, that's where I got an interest of writing for television, because I really didn't, when I said pro-social and positive change, I really didn't like the direction television was going in with all the violence and all that. So I was always a proponent. I was on the TV Academy board in Chicago. Wow. So the Tribune really led me into my producing career, but also into my my publishing and being an author career, because I got the idea to write a book on the Dick Van Dyke Show when I was there. And it was one of my favorite shows as a kid.
Mine too.
Yeah. And I didn't imagine that there wasn't a book on the subject when I was writing a column called the TV Mailbag, and people were always asking me questions about the show and all that. And it was never off the air. You know, that show started in 1961 and it literally is still on the air today. And so I had a friend who became my co-author, and we felt like, we always say, we did so many radio and television shows with the book. We said, we kind of felt like Judy Garland and Mickey Rooney. We said, let's put on a show, let's put on a book. And we wrote the book and got to interview all the people, Mary Tyler Moore and Dick Van Dyke. Reiner had just passed away. I have a picture on my wall of our publication party at the Beverly Hills Hotel, standing among all those people. Well, for a little, my name was different then, back in Chicago, Virginia. It was a dream come true, because I did my very first vision board, not even know I was doing it when I was about 10 years old. I was, and this is what I still do to today, I was cutting out pictures from the TV Week magazine and putting in an album. And I later got to be the person that was picking out those pictures and those covers for
Oh,
the magazine. Yeah,
see, visioning works, huh,
it
Ginny?
does work. And I didn't even know that I was doing it at 10 years old. But when my mother presented me with the album when I was in my 20s, and I was the youngest woman editor ever at the Tribune. And when she presented me that album when I was in my 20s, and I didn't even remember it, and there were the covers of the TV Week magazine that I cut out and pasted in this album. And now I was the person picking
Oh,
out the covers.
well, so spirituality's been very important in your life all these
Always,
years, then,
always.
right?
I was raised a Catholic. My mother died in the wool Catholic, said a rosary until the day before she died at 90. But she was very accepting of me joining the Unity Church. She would go to the Unity Church with me, even on Christmas Eve. We always had a candlelight service as we do at CSL. And she was very supportive of that because Catholicism was a great way to grow up. 12 years of Catholic school, which I know you can relate to. Great foundation. And it just didn't serve me after my divorce at 30. And
Right.
my
That's
first
me too.
yeah, right. After my first minister there, I remember my very first service when a friend brought me there kind of by accident because I ran into someone and she said, "You're going to church with me." It was Sunday. And I went, "No." And she dragged me there. And I was in tears through the whole service, which is very similar to our service.
Right.
And the minister, who was a dear, dear friend, he has since many years passed away, had become a minister at 49, as many of our ministers become ministers later in life. He had 85 unrelated jobs prior to that: cab driver, pizza maker, radio announcer, all these things. And Laura, it was the first time in my entire life that I heard a sermon that I could relate to. And
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it?
Mhm.
It is amazing. I remember when I had already started going, and my mom lived here in the desert at the time, and I went with her to mass. And first I had gone to, Dr. Tom was there then,
Oh,
and I had gone to, first I'd gone, it was Easter Sunday, and I went to church at the center, and then I went and picked up my mom at Sun City and took her over to the Catholic Church, and we were, it was so packed, we were sitting, they have side portion. I was sitting on the side and I was looking at everybody and their face was just, and I had just left this service where everybody was laughing and, there was so much joy. And it was, I thought, yes, I'm at the right, this
at
is
the right
good.
place.
It
And
served my mom. It's perfect. My mom was the same way, said my mom and dad would say their rosary every night, very devout Catholic. And yep, they were very accepting too,
But you
and
saw what it did to help me
yeah,
heal and all that and to grow. So I've been in this conversation, as we say, for decades. And I certainly credit all my success to that foundation of spirituality that I could relate to. So after I left the Tribune and left my divorce, I always say my husband he was at the Tribune also, got the Tribune in the divorce because he literally stayed there till he was tired. He's the only person I know that literally got the gold watch after like 40
oh
years in
wow.
the place. Yeah. So it was a good thing I left. Anyway, so then I moved to California the first time, and that's when I started producing cable television when it was just starting in the 80s.
Really?
So,
Is that what made you move to California to get
yes,
involved in
the book and the book. Yeah. And the
Okay.
book. But I was living in West Hollywood at the time because that's where my co-author
Wow.
was living. So we were doing early cable television. Bob Osborne, who was a host on cable for years on the movie channel, we did the first Entertainment Tonight kind of show with him interviewing celebrities. So again, it was all about, being in show business. And so then the Lawrence Welk was my mother's favorite show. And the publisher rarely asks you to write another book. You have to go in and pitch another book. So they asked us to write a book on the Lawrence Welk show. And I said, not my favorite show, but it's my mother's favorite show. So she was thrilled about that. And my dear dad, who's gone for so long, when the Dick Van Dyke book cover came out, it was a hardcover book and had a flat kind of cover. He was carrying that cover around to show his friends that his daughter had written a book. My parents never went to college.
Uh-huh.
I never imagined that would happen. So anyway, long story short, I was producing television, writing books in California. And then my dad passed away pretty suddenly in 1988. And my mom wanted to stay in the house. My brother and sister each had their own families, were out of the house. They wanted to put her in a retirement center, and she wasn't having any of that. And my job was so flexible, I could really live anywhere and do what I was doing. So I moved back to Chicago in my old room, and and it was really good for me because that's when I started producing these documentaries, which you can see on my website. I have links to the documentaries, and it was great because Mom was there, and all I had to do was keep her in her groceries and baking. She wasn't in need of any kind of nursing care, just companion care.
Right.
And I got a little dog actually from the minister at the church who had to give up his dog. So she had a companion, my first little Yorkie, and I could go anywhere I want and have that as my base, which was great. But to go back in your room after being gone for 25 years was
is that when your pet ministry started at that?
So the pet ministry started at the Unity Church in Chicago when the minister found kittens in our building. They were renovating a building, and she put them up for adoption, and it became a weekly event there. But I was not the director. I started the bake sale table, which we do at our event.
Do at our center.
I took care of the bake sale table. Oddly enough, the girl who was the director didn't drive, which was a real impediment. So I would drive her to vet appointments or to pick up a rescue dog or whatever. So I became very involved in it. So that way, it was one of the most wonderful moments when the pet ministry started at CSL. I tell that story all the time, is when Reverend Joe, Dr. Joe would say, well, what speaks to you here? I looked around and saw, the seniors, the children, the Rainbow Alliance, everything, but I didn't see anything about pets. So I asked for a sign from God to get how to bring this up. And it was the Sunday that Dr. Joe, Reverend Joe at the time, brought out his 2 Labradoodles, puppies. And Dr. Maxine was there at the time, and she told the story about somebody brought her a dog the day before her yoga, and she ended up keeping it. And I thought, there's my sign. So I went out to her after the service, and I said, Reverend Maxine, if you couldn't have kept yoga, what would you have done? And she said, well, gee, Jenny, I don't know. And I said, well, let me tell you about the pet ministry. And it was born in February of 2009 with that experience.
Oh my God. And going strong and filling so many
over 100 pets, just bringing a few at a time. As you know, from September to May, we bring 3 to 5 dogs. And fortunately, to address the COVID issue, because of Christina, my rescue partner, I don't have the dogs, she has the dogs.
Right.
We've been getting people, asking us. It just happened last week. A friend of mine, who's a friend of Sherry Storch's, that's how I know her, said, oh, my boyfriend has 2 dogs, and I'm looking for my own dog, keep your eye open. I kind of like terriers. Well, I knew Christina had one and had been in foster care, and sometimes the foster care becomes a permanent home, sometimes it doesn't.
A lot of times. Definitely.
Yeah. So I said, I think Sandy would be a good match for Roger. The dog's name was Roger. And so that was 10 o'clock Saturday morning. We sent Sandy pictures. She said, okay, we'll set up a meet and greet. Christina meets them at 4 o'clock. And by Saturday night, Roger was in that home for a trial night because there was other dogs, and we always want to make sure they get along. And by the next day, he had a home. So that's what I live for.
So Jenny, how did you get to the desert then?
Okay, so what happened was, after I was living with my mom, and this is the sad part of the story, she was wonderful until the end in terms of being able to take care of herself. And then she passed away after about a month of really serious illness in 2002. I had to have care for her and everything. I was ready to move back out to California then, and I was going to move to Los Angeles. And then my sister started getting ill. I had a sister that was 11 years older, and a brother that I was 9 years older. And this is where the faith and the foundation got me through this time, because Mom was 90, and I was dreading it, but I was prepared for it, as I'm sure you were with your mom. But she died in 2002. We had a family home that we inherited. My sister said, and I said, well, I'm going back to LA. She said, there's a great townhouse right next door to me. How about coming and being my neighbor? And it was so out of anything I was thinking, but we were like an aunt and a niece more than sisters, because there was an 11-year difference.
That's my sister and I are 18 years.
Oh, 18.
Like my daughter.
Oh,
yeah. My mom got pregnant when I was a senior in high school.
Wow. Well, my sister made you know what a novena is, of course. She made a
Yes.
novena for a baby sister when she was 10 years old and
Oh,
promised the Blessed Virgin Mary that she would name me Virginia Marie.
oh,
My mother was 37 at the time. And she said, don't get your hopes up, honey. And she said, no, I'm making a novena. Her faith was so strong. And my brother was 9 at the time. And I can't tell the story without tearing up. And so she made the novena, and my mother got pregnant at 30, which wasn't that common in those days,
right.
And,
No.
yeah, and so she had, you know, a baby, coming, and she said, well, honey, it could be a boy. And she said, no, it's going to be a girl. I'm sure of it. And when I was born in those days, my dad came home after I was born, and the day after my mother's birthday. Her birthday's November 16th, mine's the 17th. And my dad was laying on the bed, and my sister walks in, and she says, Daddy, how's my little Virginia Marie? And he said, just fine. And that was, there's a cartoon I've seen where there's a huge auditorium, and one person is sitting in that auditorium, and the caption is Convention of Functional Families. And I feel like I was that one person,
Oh, wow.
because I was so wanted and so loved. And my brother and sister used to fight over taking care of me. I mean, she raised her own babysitters. So the sad part of the story now is that my mother dies in 2002. I'm deciding what to do with the house. And my brother gets mesothelioma and dies suddenly 2 months later. And my sister and he were, quite close. And she said, well, come on, why don't you come and live out here? And we knew that Mom found this place right next door to my sister, because my sister and I could have never lived together, but living next door was perfect. So I buy the townhouse out in Schaumburg, where God left his shoes. It's way out by the airport. And my sister starts getting ill. Mm-hmm. And she had all sorts of health conditions, in and out of the hospital. And we finally became sisters. We went to movies together. We went to Curbs together. We went out to lunch together. We went shopping together. So that age difference caught up, which you probably experienced too. So we had 3 years of being sisters. And one morning she didn't bring my mail up to my place, and she'd been, on and off the hospital. And I go down to her place and find her dead in her bed.
Oh, Ginny.
So Mom in 2002, Ed in 2004. This is now 2008. And at that moment, I knew I was coming back to California, because the only reason I was in Schaumburg was there. But if I have a choice of how to go, that's the way to go. She didn't know what hit her. It was so hard on the family, but, it was a blessing for her. Yeah. So I made I had been to Palm Springs on vacation the year before. And I said, when I picked up the visitor's book in October, and it said 360 days of sunshine, average temperature 75 to 85 degrees, and less than 5 inches of rain, I said to my friend who I was traveling with, I'm going to live here someday. And you know what? It lived up to that billing, right? Right. So within 6 weeks, I had packed up my house in Chicago, found a rental place here that fell in my lap, furnished. So I left my things and rented it furnished, and started my new life. So of course, I had to find a church. My biggest fear was, where was I going to find a hairdresser, a church, and a dentist? Those were my 3 top things. Well, who led me to the Center for Spiritual Living was Terry Cole Whitaker.
Really?
Continuing my story, after I produced my documentaries for A&E and the History Channel and public television, I became a literary agent, and Terry Cole Whitaker was one of my clients. I knew her through mutual friends. So I sold her book called Live Your Bliss to New World Library. And so we became good friends. And I said, Terry, I'm sure you lived in Palm Springs. She said, I've got the place for you, Ginny, because she had been at my Unity Church many times. That's how she knew what kind of church I'd be her host when she was there. So she said, I've got the place for you. I said, okay, well, you know what I'm used to in Chicago. And I came to the center. It was July of 2008. Sat in the front row, which I sit in still this day. And Bobby was playing the piano, and Reverend Joe wasn't there. It was a monk who was there that day.
Oh, I
time I've
remember.
ever seen him in the 12 years.
Yeah, he only came that one time.
That was time. Okay, so that was the Sunday. I look around and I thought, okay, and I, felt the energy and the music and the whole thing. And from that day, I knew I was home. And I thanked Terry for it many, many, many times. And
Well, did you know Terry had a church here for a little while?
I did. Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's why I knew she knew Palm Springs, and she knew everyone. So yeah, no, we knew each other very well. I still keep in touch with her. She's up in Mount Shasta now.
Oh, I didn't know that. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she still does retreats and stuff. I get things from her. But anyway, so my television career pretty much ended in Chicago because there's a lot of ageism in television. And when you get to a certain age, they want the 20 and 30-year-olds. And it is a young person's job, because when I ran around doing my documentaries, if you see, I highly recommend, if you're looking for someone to watch on a Saturday night, the one about the couple that was stranded out on the water. It's called Bonds of Survival. I interviewed a couple that lived on the Pacific Ocean in a raft, basically, for 117 days.
Oh my!
I actually went to interview them in England, and a father and a son who were lost in a snowstorm in a cave, and and then my favorite is about Chicago. It's about the Edgewater Beach Hotel, where people used to go dance back in the 40s with the big bands. And it was wonderful. I've never had a child, never given birth. And between writing my Highway to Heaven for Michael Landon and producing the books and producing the TV shows, every time I did that, I kind of had a sense of what it must feel like to give birth, because it was an idea in my head. And then I wrote it, produced it, edited it, and there it was, for people to enjoy.
Well, and you helped Dale Alansky.
I did.
Dale get her book published.
Right.
Are you working on her second one that she's doing now?
No, who I'm working with right now is Laura and Annie Meeks.
Oh, that is going to be so
fabulous. That is the story. That is the story. No, then I started so I was a literary agent, and then I started my own publishing company. The books were carried in the bookstore. Transformation Media. There were about 16 books I published. And of course, our dear, dear Reverend Marion had to review the books before the bookstore carried it. And she loved all my books. And I said, Reverend Marion, your review means more to me than the New York Times, because she had read everything, right? She was such an avid reader. So anyway, my books were in the bookstore. I did 16 books. And that's when Dale was telling me she had an idea. I said, I could be your coach. I could be your literary coach and your editor. And I was such a fan of her Facebook postings anyway, that when she said she wanted to put them in a book, and given the Period of Faith title and everything, I said, oh, this is, I start, when you ask me, about spiritual practice, I read that book I'm on my second way through. I read it every morning. I spend a good half an hour to 45 minutes in the morning meditating. I did the whole prosperity thing we did for 21 days, twice without missing a day, which opened up a lot of things. And I read her book. I often post on Facebook the message for the day. And then I read Daily Word, which I've read since the day I walked into Unity. I've had a daily word every day, and now I read it online. I post that. So I have a foundation in the morning, because once that 45 minutes is over, it's like I put on my atomic roller skates, because the rest of the day I'm running.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So now that COVID's hit, I have a feeling it hasn't stopped you much.
No, I've started a whole new company. This has been very exciting. Again, it's so based in what we believe, and having that foundation of faith and trust. And not that I don't have my moments of fear. That's why I'm glad I have Dale's book. And I certainly, being the empathic personality that I am, because I am a rescuer, I'm having some stomach issues and things now, because I internalize everything. And I'm trying not to be such an addict to what's going on in the world.
Right.
But having had a journalism background, and a media background, it's really hard to separate the two. So to answer your question, I was really scared when it started, because I had been working with Laura and Annie. So Dale recommended me to them, and Laura and Annie and I were friends prior to that. And when they told me their story, I taught film and television writing at Northwestern. I said, you couldn't make this up. This is one of those things where the truth is
So let's tell our viewers who may not know who
Laura
Laura and
Mayer.
Annie are. This is going to be an amazing story.
It is.
Laura used to be Lawrence,
Right.
and they were married. He is this gorgeous man in the Air Force,
Pilot.
pilot
Pilot.
bomber jets, and she also was in the military. And then he finally realized that what was wrong in his life was that he was really a woman inside. And to tell Annie this, and here she's been in love with this gorgeous man, and the story how she stayed with him, and because she said she loved the person. And oh, I mean, I get God bumps.
I get goosebumps. I do. And I interviewed them for hours on Zoom. We do Zoom interviews. I'm now editing with them the chapters, and we've talked to a few agents about this. It's a movie. Every time I read
It's
this,
got to be like an HBO series.
it does. We're talking. We're hopefully
Showtime or
this
something.
into Netflix, because now they do these 3 and 4 part things. There's way too much stories in 35 years to do 2 hours.
Right.
And of course, my favorite actor in the world is Hugh Jackman. And
he would be
so
good.
perfect because he's handsome enough, right, for the pilot, and pretty enough to play Laura, right? And that is such a juicy role for an actor, right? I mean, you could really sink your teeth into that, right? So they're a joy, and they're such an inspiration. I tell them this all the time. In fact, I was reading chapters of Laura's book, and then we meet on Zoom on Sunday. And I often start the Zoom meeting with a standing ovation because I've just read a few chapters, and I say, you get a stand. They're good writers, they're good storytellers, and Laura is pulling back the curtain in a way that's so impressive, because it's pretty personal. You know, people ask her very personal questions. They ask me personal questions and she's pulling back that curtain and telling them, and the bottom line, the subtitle is Major Transformation is our working title, which is a play on words, obviously, because she was a major in the Air Force. But the subtitle is really what it's probably going to be, which is Loving Without Limits.
Oh, because that is them. That is so
absolutely true. And we use the analogy, you know, marriages break over the husband coming home from work and saying, we got to move to Cleveland for my job. And the wife says, I'm not going, you know. Things like that, and to be able to, for Annie, to love the person, and again, you know, people thought she was a lesbian. She's not a lesbian. You know, all these things that they had to, and the norm is that people do break up.
Yeah.
You know, it's not common. So anyway, it's an honor. It's a privilege to be working on that book with them. And so going back to what happened in the desert. So I get here in 2008, and there weren't any television opportunities. I started the publishing company, and truly my focus did become the pet ministry, because I really felt that that's where it's important about making a difference. You know, everything I've done has been about making a difference. And the pet ministry has now led me to 2 things that I've been doing in COVID, to answer your question. I saw 2 pressing needs doing the pet ministry all these years. All the seniors that we have that wanted pets, seniors who were calling me saying, there's no place for me to rent. There's no place to get into affordable housing with my pet. What do? I'd rather live in my car. You know, it was horrible. And now with COVID, it's going to be even worse. And all the senior pets that go down at the shelters because they don't have a home. And we'd like to turn this into a no-kill community, but those are the numbers that skew the numbers, because they don't get homes, they go down at the shelters. So I came up with the answer, and I've got all sorts of people stepping up, including the city of Palm Springs. I've talked to the mayor pro tem, the building department. I'm meeting with somebody on the phone on Friday that's building another affordable housing. I created New Harmony Habitat, a sanctuary for senior people and pets, and affordable housing with a state-of-the-art material that's inexpensive to build, doesn't take a lot of time to build. It's fireproof, it's mold-proof, it's durable during earthquakes, and we can build like casita-sized houses, 1 bedroom, even 2 bedrooms, that we can rent for affordable housing rates. And here's the big issue. People call me we deal with this in the center all the time. Well, I'd like to adopt a pet, but what happens if I have to go in the hospital? Or what happens to that pet when I die? Well, you're going to be set up in a community where there's going to be buddies for everybody. So you know that if you have to go to the hospital, your buddy's going to step in. If you die, somebody's going to adopt your dog. And that is such a peace of mind for people. And if they don't want to adopt, they can foster, because the way we save lives, is fostering. And it just solved so many issues, and I've gotten such a great response for it. So I'm making that my project for the future.
That's a brilliant, brilliant idea, Jenny. And I remember before we closed down, you had just you were just starting it, weren't you?
Yeah, I was starting it, and then it had to go on the back burner because everything, was happening for COVID. So it's just starting again this week. I'm in touch with people from an organization called Lift to Rise, which is all about affordable housing here. And then on Monday, I went on a meeting for the city for a housing unit that's going to be built here on Palm Canyon. And we got to ask questions, and I said who I was and told them what I just told you. And the gentleman from the organization invited me to call on Friday. He said, I think it's very impressive. You should call us, because they're the people building it. And that's what it takes. It takes a village to build a village like that.
Right. So where in Palm Springs, do they have property? Do you
all over. There's
Okay.
property that the city could donate in some aspects, but I go around and take pictures of all the signs here of property that have been for sale here forever. So, and it's going to cost less than $6 million to build something like this, which barely you can build a house out here for that. So if I can get somebody to donate land, or at least give us a good deal, and it's so inexpensive to build these things. So it's my dream, and I think it's really possible, and it would serve such a tremendous need here. So that's one thing keeping me busy. But the big thing that happened, the old find the need and fill it, that was one thing. The second thing was I got approached in April, and I've already talked to Elizabeth about this, and turns out I didn't know Jerry Lynn was a friend of my business partner, Mario Hernandez. There's such a small desert. She said to him, oh, you should come to the center and tell them about your product. We have a sanitation and disinfecting company that's going to kill the COVID and also keep it safe for 90 days. And it's non-toxic. A lot of the things that people are using right now, they're finding health problems. And I'm so interested in that because we want to use it around the pets and around kids and all that. So we've been building this company now since May, and almost everything's been closed where we would normally be doing our business, but now things are starting to open up. So we've got the products, we call them service providers and applicators, and we can go in with a fogger, and you can use the facility the same day. There's no time to turnaround time, and it's got to happen. All the things that we can do to make ourselves safe so we can go back to our normal life. So that makes me feel good, because I feel like I have wonderful partners, and we all have the same vision. We want to give back to the community, and we want to make everybody safe so we can go back to some sense of normal.
I have a question about that fogger. So do you guys come in and fog, or can people buy the equipment so they can do it themselves?
Yes, both.
Okay.
So like if someone like William wanted to do the center, we can provide him, we could recommend, it has to be a certain kind of fogger we can't use ones that heat up and that kind of thing to destroy the thing. But we recommend the fogger, we can sell them the products and show them how to do it. And that's all. Because then you could do it after, every service or whatever. We see people going around with the spray bottles and the cloths, and, it's just not doing it.
Right. Wow. Jenny, so you've been very busy.
That's called Environment Protection Solutions, by the way. And I've been
go to your website.
I can see that. Everything is at GinnyWeissman.com. But people, I've been on some of the, obviously, different Sacred Circle and different calls, and people were feeling so isolated. And I said, thank God it is at 1990. We have our phones, we have Facebook, and most of all, we have Zoom. I said, we would be living in caves in 1990, right?
Absolutely.
I am on Zoom the entire day. I have a wonderful colleague in Rancho Mirage. I have a virtual assistant in the Philippines.
Wow.
She's the one that put together that lovely post that was on Facebook. And so I start my morning, usually, in the morning with him. and we're on all day, and we can be on each other's screens. You know, he can work on my screen, I can work on his screen. Then we work all day on Zoom. I have colleagues in Minnesota. I have another colleague in Tennessee. So I'm with people all over the country. And then at 5 o'clock, with a 15-hour time difference, she's getting up in the morning at 8 a.m. and I'm ending my day at 5 o'clock, and we work for another 2 hours on Zoom. So I never felt isolated. And it was a miracle that we could keep working, create a business, connect with people, and stay positive. You know, the big thing was the staying positive, because I know a lot of people have really had an issue with that,
Right.
being able to do that.
Yeah.
And you're getting those calls all the time.
Right. Yeah. No. And it's like my court reporting business.
Yes, what
You
happened?
know, I'm doing depositions via Zoom too. You know, it was interesting because at first the attorneys were like, "Nah, we're going to just wait until we open up." And the judges in court say, well, you know, we're not going to give you extensions on your discovery because you could be doing stuff. So they knew that there was Zoom, but the attorneys weren't availing themselves. Now we've got every day, our calendar is really full. But I asked about that, about your fogger, because we do have depositions, and that's what we're doing after the deposition, wiping down the tables and the chairs and stuff. But I love the idea of that fogger where we could just go in, blast the place, and know that it's okay for the next day and stuff. So
And we have FDA and EPA documentation saying that that's all true, because I know the government would be really interested in knowing it's all valid. Yeah, so we have all the documentation that proves that it works.
that's awesome. So I so admire that you really have used these spiritual principles your whole life to manifest, to recreate yourself constantly. And what a an amazing story. And Jenny, I hope you are writing a book about your journey. No, you're not.
No. It's such a difficult thing to do. I mean, I literally typed my Dick Van Dyke and Lawrence Welk book on a electric typewriter. Thank
Oh
God
my,
for
a selectric? Was
really
it a selectric?
a selectric, yeah, but with the corrected tape and all that. We literally did cut and paste in those days. You know, we
Right.
rearranged the chapters and all that. Yeah, no, that isn't a burning desire for me at all. I love what I'm doing with helping other people, especially people with stories, like Laura and Annie. That I'm more. If I did anything else again, it would be the producing. And yeah, that would be the thing.
So Jenny, let me ask you, during this COVID with so many people, because I think I heard somewhere that a lot more people are adopting pets because they're
Yes,
lonely.
yes.
And so are you finding that with the pet ministry that a lot of people are contacting you, asking you for that?
Happened. And not, of course, as many as we'd like, but what we also found out was there weren't as many what we called owner surrenders. We do get them obviously when somebody dies or has to go into a nursing home, but people were keeping their pets. And usually we find strays, and we haven't even, Christina hasn't told me, we've had, Roger was a stray, but she had him for quite a while. So people were kind of hanging on to their pets a little bit more. And because they were home more, sometimes they just don't have the time for them. So they were keeping them. So yeah, no, the pet ministry is kept going. And I fortunately got a grant that I applied for. So, because I don't have my fundraising anymore on the patio.
Right.
And
Right.
I do have, which is a big help. I do have a couple of regular donors. Patrice Carpenter and Steve Reed are regular donors of mine, and that helps a lot. But I did get a grant, which is keeping us going, because what we use it for, and again, people were bringing food to the center, they were bringing supplies. So now that money is going to go to that, and also going to go to the medical expenses, because that's an ongoing thing. So it's been important to keep it going, because yeah, after 12 years, I think I'm the longest running organization at the center.
You definitely are, for sure. And I know it's made a huge impact on so many people's lives, and of course the animals.
Oh my gosh. Well, you see my signature line in my Aubrey put that together too, my virtual assistant, that I say there's rarely a Sunday that somebody doesn't come up when I was there to tell me how wonderful their bed is, and sends me pictures, and it's again having no family. And again, so after I lost my mother, brother, and sister, I have no family. I mean, that was my family, and I have a niece back in Chicago who I may go to Chicago again. I don't know, but that's what's been keeping me going is my CSL family, as I always say in my posts, and the fact that I kind of see that we all like to think we leave some kind of legacy with our family and with our children, as you do with your sons and your grandchildren. But I feel that's my legacy, that those pets are really something I can leave behind. And I've often said, though I'm not in a position to do it with money, I just do it with service. The one word that I want on my tombstone is philanthropist, because
Oh,
that to me is what life's about.
right. Oh, Jenny, what a great example. So right now, I mean, are they still euthanizing a lot of pets with
Not
what's
as much.
going?
Riverside County, it's not as bad. We get numbers, and I haven't seen them in the last month or so. Where we really had an issue was with cats, and you've seen very few cats on the patio because even though there have been some, and we've had some adoptions, they don't show well in that environment because we have to keep them in the cages. People want to take them out. We can't do that in the open area. So where we really have a problem here is with the cats. And we have what we call community cats now. They used to be called feral cats.
Right.
And Best Friends, who is the big rescue shelter and sanctuary in Utah, gave the city and the Palm Springs shelter a grant years ago, 2 years ago now. They came and did what we call TNR, trap, neuter, and release, because there's no home for these cats. But as you know, one cat in a lifetime can have a 6 litter of kittens.
Oh, wow.
One cat with all the litters reproducing and not being fixed could produce thousands and thousands and thousands of cats. So we go out, I don't do it personally, but I have rescue friends who do, go out, set the traps, get the cats, take them in, get them spayed or neutered, and then release them back to their environment. And then we save all that reproduction. So that's what's going on now. We've got a trap, neuter, and release going on with Kittyland. That woman that was working with Best Friends and continued on with Kittyland. So we're always looking, I'm always donating to them. That's another thing. When the pet ministry gets money in, I do the things we need, and then I see an organization in need, and then I help them with that money too. So right now we're contributing to the trap, neuter, and release, because there's no homes for those cats. We can't keep having them reproduce. And they're in some of the high-end communities here. Some of the really high-end communities will have a community cat problem. So by at least doing that, we're not contributing to the population. So
Right.
that's
I would imagine near the cities, near the housing near mountains and stuff where they can roam around and come in and so forth, that they would really, there would be an issue with that.
there would be. Yeah. So no, the work continues, which is gratifying to me. And we're always here for people, like I said, if they do have medical needs, or if they have to turn in an animal, or some, I've gotten such sad stories. Some people are not in a financial position when their pet dies to do anything with it. So they call us, and we take care of, the euthanasia and the cremations and all that. So the work goes on. But that's what's so exciting to me about New Harmony Habitat, because I feel that it could be a template. Once we get it all worked out here, we're looking at about 36 units to start here. That could be a prototype for certainly all through the desert and through Los Angeles and all through California.
Right. Wow. That's great. So Jenny, if people wanted to get involved, with your pet ministry, they could just go to your website and
Go to my
contact
website,
you?
yeah, and my email address is there. We're always looking. Sometimes some of the things I need are transport kind of things. We sometimes need to go pick up a pet. Unfortunately, Christina's big SUV got vandalized, and so we're looking for another big vehicle for her to transport pets. So we need people who would help transport, sometimes take a pet back and forth to the vet. We always need the food, and certainly any donations for medical, because who knows when we don't know when we'll be back on the patio again. Even
No.
if they open up for churches, we still don't know when we'll be back on. Huh?
Right. And I don't know that just when we'll open, even though I know that I think they're allowing churches or so many people, but I think we're going to err on the side of caution and watch and see, because we would hate to think that our center was a spreader
Right, right.
of the,
And given the age of the population,
yeah,
the
exactly.
population, that's a big factor. And one of the reasons it's so wonderful, because again, I say it every Sunday, it's so wonderful to have the connection on Sunday and every day. But why we go there is for that energy. And
Yes.
we'll have to limit it to, a much smaller congregation. We're not going to have the experience, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It's like, and there is an energy in the sanctuary. I have to say, I don't know if you've noticed, but since we've been back at the center doing
Yes, I like
Sundays,
Mhm.
doing the service for Sundays, I told Reverend Charles that your talks are so more powerful, and Jenny, even though like when I go in there, because we film in there, there's just the filming people and maybe a practitioner that's going to be praying, there still is this energy. And in fact, Elizabeth and I were talking in the office the other day about the fact we had James von Prague at our center years,
Oh,
you know, and afterwards, Dr. Joe is very sensitive to energy. He could hear people talking that weren't there. And we called James von Prague and said, "You'll have some people here." Call him. And he did. And it stopped. But I just think of all the amazing people that have been in our sanctuary that are no longer here. Elizabeth and I were envisioning Dr. Tom in there and all these people that have made their transition, just getting together and keeping that energy, that amazing energy within our center. And so I know that we're looking forward to coming back, and I'm looking forward, for you and the pet ministry. And definitely you need to keep us posted on, what's going on with all your different projects.
Yeah, because there's so many people who've already asked me at the center about that. That would be, every affordable housing, senior housing here has a waiting list of up to 2 to 3 years.
I imagine.
And even this one that they're building, which sounds wonderful, it's not going to open until 2023. And I thought, when you're a senior, 2 to 3 years,
you might be gone, right?
Right.
And you'd be very lonely and worried about your pet all that time. And so because I'm not familiar, they don't allow pets, right? In a lot of these assisted.
A lot of them don't. This new one that they're building, they will, because I asked that question. Some don't, or they allow one. So
Right.
if you've got somebody with a dog and a cat, it's Sophie's choice. What are you going to do? And you can't take a senior pet to the shelter. That's a death sentence. So yeah. So I feel we're solving a lot of problems, and it's only going to be more so now with what's going on. And it was a need back that, a year ago.
Right, before all this happened, right?
Even more of a need. Yeah, for sure. So so that's, needless to say, I keep busy every day. And that's why I don't get to go on at 10 o'clock live. I'm so
That's me too. I have so many, Wednesdays and Thursdays are my church days. So I'm available to do stuff. But even then I'm in church Wednesday doing what I need to do. And then Thursday with this, but yeah, but thank God for Zoom, right?
Yes,
Thank God
and for you too. So I can watch us on the TV. I watched some of the Sensational Six yesterday on the TV, and a little bit of the Jafan Seeley interview on Tuesday. And so, yeah, you get to watch it, whenever you want. Oh, this has been so amazing that we could live like this and still feel connected, because it really, I can't even imagine what it would have been like 20, 30 years ago. And, where there's a will, there's a way. Everybody found a way to do it.
Yeah, it has been amazing. I want to thank Jeff Harrison and Swing Point Media
yes.
for all they do for us, that we can come every day like this at 10 o'clock. And we thank everybody that supports our center. Go to our webpage, to help us, because this does cost money.
It does cost money, but you know what I've done, because what I miss most is going to brunch on Sunday with the girls. We were always going to Louise's.
Right.
You saw half the congregation there. We loved our free mimosas. That's why we went there. And what I've decided to do, since I'm not driving to church, there's no gas, and I'm, in Palm Springs, so it was a ways to go. People, in fact, I had a few friends visit, and they're like, "You drive a half an hour to church on Sunday morning when there's a church? Palm Springs Church is 5 minutes from my house." And I said, "Nope, this is my center." But anyway, we always went to Louise's for brunch. So I decided for my donation that I would add my brunch costs to my donation. That's
Yep.
what I do. I thought this is what I was spending on a Sunday anyway. So I just add that to the donation.
Well, that's it. People, you are saving a lot of money on hair and nails. Give
And
it to the
yes,
center so that
yes,
we can keep doing this all the time, right?
yeah, and gas,
And
I
gas,
think I filled up my tank twice since March.
yeah, so that's what I love, Jenny. I love the fact that, and that's what this higher view is, let's not sit around, oh, woe is me, the world is terrible. I love that the passion that you have for everything you do, there is so much passion. And that's what makes you so successful. That's what makes you people gravitate and want to help because you stir within them, you awake. If that is their calling, they'll hear you and they'll say, I want to be a part of that.
And that's what happened. There's a quote that my grandmother, I had a I was 100% Polish. My grandmother came over from Poland when she was 18, never saw her parents or anybody again. And it was the only grandparent I knew. And she spoke Polish till the day she died. She spoke English broken to her grandchildren, but she used to say something that has always stuck with me. And I think it so applies to this time. And because I think we're going to come out so much better, so much stronger, so much more equal in this world. And her expression was, there's nothing so bad that something good doesn't come out of it.
Oh, I love that. And I always quote I remember taking a class with Reverend Marion that said, out of all chaos, something beautiful is going to be born. And so that's what I think about. I'm doing this book study. It's kind of just a group of, and we're doing the oneness book. And it's like every week, we don't read it ahead, we read it in the group. And it's like every week, it's like, oh my God, this is for now. And it's all about that, we are creating our world, and what kind of world do we want to create? And so that's what the higher view is about. That's why I invited you. When I all of a sudden I had to have somebody, which I wasn't planning, I said, Ginny Weissman, I want to thank Don Finlinson, because Don said, we should be interviewing some people from our center so we can see the faces and get caught up with what they're doing. And you popped into my head immediately.
You said, can you do me a favor? I went, oh my gosh, what a lovely invitation.
Well, and it was after I invited you to do this is when I realized that the people from Chicago were because of you. Because we were going, why Chicago or what? I mean, what, and I said, and then in the middle of the night, it hit me in my sleep and I said, Jenny. So thank you, Jenny, for all your sharing, and all of you that watch, share it. So we have people from all over the country, all over the world that watch our Sunday show, and you always give the most, your critiques of the service are always so beautiful. And now I know why, because you are this literary genius and stuff. So real quick before we end, so out of all the people you have interviewed, which was the one that was off the chart? I mean, I'm sure they were all special, but the one that you hold in your heart and are so grateful for that opportunity, is there one?
I got to say this to him in person because I always say this about him. We all remember Henry Winkler playing the Fonz.
Yes.
And he was a Yale graduate, nothing like the character that he played.
Wow.
He had learning disabilities. He was a completely different kind of, I don't know if he was a covert kind of person, but he was not anywhere like the Fonz. And I got to know him pretty well when I was at the Tribune. And he must have had one of those photographic memories, because he would not only remember my name, but he would say, Ginny, are you in Chicago or are you in LA? You know, that kind of thing. And occasionally I'd have business with him and I'd have to leave a phone message and I'd come home and press my phone machine in those days.
Right, in those days. Yeah.
This is Henry Winkler, give me a call, you know?
Mm.
He was so accessible. Now he was about 5'5" and I was in heels, 5'9". And one time when we were parting ways, he had to actually get on his toes to kiss me on the cheek.
How special. And he's still going strong.
He just won an Emmy last year, the
Did he
first
win it
time in his
for
career.
that?
Yeah,
Oh.
for the show he's on now. And he won it last year, and it was first Emmy after all these years. But I got to, after I'd been telling, because people ask me that often, and I would say that about Henry Winkler. And then I got to meet him again, up with him again years later. And I said, Henry, you know, people always ask me that question. And I say, I have one answer. And I'm so glad to be able to tell you in person that it's you, because he just is such a genuine person. And I have to say, that's not true across the board in entertainment. Most people have an on-screen persona, and sometimes they're just very shy when they're off camera. I knew Phil Donahue very well back in Chicago. He dated a friend of mine before he met Marlo Thomas. Been to his house, he'd been to my house, and I invited him to a party once, and he was standing in the corner. He couldn't go up and talk to anybody. A man who made his living as a talk show host. You know, it's fascinating. You know that
right, to see like behind the curtain, right?
The curtain.
That's what you're seeing. Right. You're seeing behind the curtain, and it's yeah, and we put them on this pedestal, and we want, you know, and that may not even be the person that we really know. We don't know.
Really no, and they have the right, you know, to right. have their privacy. You don't have to. But that's always, thank you for asking that, because he's so special, and I'm glad that he still has the career and has the.
I think his show is Barry. Is that
Barry? Nothing I would watch, because
it's about yeah. But I like Hate or whatever. I can't remember his first name, but I love.
Oh, it's so funny.
Oh yeah, he is so funny. But he, but he's an assassin or something, and he's acting. He's taking acting lessons.
Yeah, and I think he's an acting teacher. He's his acting teacher. No, to get back to what you said in my bio at the beginning, that I've been a activist for pro entertainment. That's been the thing for me. I can't understand now, even now, and this is what I'm hoping all this will change, is why things are so dark. You know, let's start doing the inspiring, and a lot of things are. You know.
Well, I think that's why Schitt's Creek won. So all those enemies. I love Schitt's Creek.
I've only watched a few episodes. I have to get back into it, but I've never. Now I went to the Emmys. I've been to the Oscars.
Oh, wow.
I've done those things, and I have never seen there's been sweeps, but never in every category. They won it.
We just lost category. You. Is our time up?
Oh, I
don't hear you. You froze. Oh, yes. Jenny, you froze.
There you are. You're back.
Or maybe it's me.
Yeah, I never saw another show win in every single category ever. So I think we've got some chats there. Are people talking to us?
No, I think that's just Krista from who's handling it. Okay, she was just telling me that you're still here. So
I'm still here. Good. That's good. Sorry, I'm always the producer here. I have to.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's great having you there for the first one. But Jenny, what a legacy. And I know that our center feels so blessed to have you, and all you do for not just our center, but for the community. And you're an inspiration for all of us, especially women.
Well, thank you.
Really, right? Because and you and I grew up in that same era. It's not easy for women. And the things that you accomplished, that was a man's world.
Oh, really. Right. And to be picked as that editor when I was so young, and to be the youngest, woman's editor at the Tribune was astounding, because that just didn't happen in those days. It was a glass ceiling kind of thing, and I was happy. So I did that. I keep breaking the glass ceilings, but I have to say a thank you to you for all the inspiration and the classes I've taken with you. Yours was the very first class I ever took when I came here 12 years ago. It was the Ho'oponopono class.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, boy, that's a good thing to remember, right?
And my big fear, and I know we only have a minute left, is what Reverend Charles was going to say about the pet ministry, because again, Dr. Joe was such a supporter of it. And I remember the day, I love Reverend Charles. And again, it's been a transition, you know, and that's
Right.
why I'm so glad we have him doing the services now to relate to. But when I took him by the hand and I said, well, let me show you the dogs and let me show you what you do. And he's going, this is great. This is great. This is great. I thought, oh, thank goodness, because it could have gone the other way. Somebody would have gone, dogs on the patio.
Anybody,
I know, but you never know.
but you never know. You never know.
You never know. But he's been wonderful and you've been wonderful. And again, I say it every Sunday. Thank goodness for this family and for the support and for the connection. You know, you've kept us connected all these many months. And, you know, my heartfelt thank you for that.
Well, Jenny, I know you don't get to do the 10 o'clock all the time, but make sure you go back and watch what Reverend Charles is doing tomorrow.
I know. Where in the world is Dr. Joe? Yes, I know.
It's like, where's Waldo? It's going to be, where's Dr. Joe? So make sure everybody.
I will. I do. Well, see, I catch up on the weekends. You know, right. I have one appointment with Laura at 5 o'clock on Sunday and Annie, but I do. I binge watch now. I understand how people can binge watch because one episode goes to the next, right? So now I'm into the first season of This Is Us, which I never watched when it was on the network. And oh my gosh, what a heart tugger that is. I watched the episode, I'm like, well, I'm done. And then it goes into the next episode. So you just keep watching. So I'm going to do a binge watching of the CSL channel.
Good. All right, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us. My first guest on The Higher View. And I will see you back in October. Jenny, just keep us posted on what's going on with you.
I will. Thank you so much. I wish you the best with this. It's a great idea.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.